Hello, my name is Tim Shoebridge. This is a very short, very simple video, very low budget video, just showing you the simple steps that you need to take in order to be able to import presets into your Waldorf Quantum or Waldorf Iridium. I'm going to be using an Iridium here, but the process is exactly the same for a Quantum. And in terms of where I'm getting my presets from, I'm running Windows on my PC here. It'll be a very similar situation if you're running on an Apple Mac. So let's just take a look at the screen here. You can see I've got two sort of like file explorer windows here. This top one is my removable media. I'm using an SD card. You could use a USB stick if you wanted to. This is an SD card here, and it's got nothing on it at the moment. Down here, this is on my computer where the presets are that I want to install onto the synth. First thing I do is to create a new folder on my SD card to put the presets in rather than dump them into the root folder of the SD card. So I've created my new folder here and I'm going to go into it. So I've now got that folder selected. Now in terms of the presets, we've just got three presets here. They are identifiable by their extension, which is QPAT, which stands for Quantum Patch. So we've got three presets. Now, depending on where you've got these presets from, the preset creator may or may not have included some samples. My sample libraries, I always include samples. They're always based on samples. So you should have, as well as these presets, you should have a samples subfolder. And it's important that when you copy these presets, that you copy the folder as well. If we look inside this folder, we'll see that there's some kind of folder structure that's defined by the creator of the patches. There we'll see that we've got the actual samples down there. But you don't want to change any of this at all. You want to leave it as it is and just make sure that when you copy the presets that you copy that samples folder as well, because otherwise when you try and import those patches into your synth, it'll find, well, you won't be able to find any samples in the expected locations and you will have a problem. So I'm selecting all of that, the three samples, the three patches in the samples folder. I'm dragging it across into this folder I've created on my SD card. So there we are. If I go back up to the root, there's my folder. Inside it are my presets and the samples. All right. So the next step is to just eject that, take out your card and put it into your synth. Okay. Now I need a camera on my synth, so I have to stop and say goodbye. Okay, so let's import those three presets on the SD card. We do that by hitting the load button to load a patch. And here, where it says actions, this is actually a button that we can tap on. If I tap on it, you'll see that we can import and export, delete, and rebuild our patch cache. All right, so import is what we're going to choose. But before we go there and import, I just want to talk about where you're going to import your patches to. So on the Quantum and the Iridium, you've got literally 10,000 preset slots, patch slots that you can save patches to. And when we import patches, we have to determine which patch slots we're going to save them to. So the first thing you need to know is how many patches, presets you are actually importing. Have a good idea of how many there are, because what you're going to have to do is find somewhere to import them to. Now this is my Iridium. We're going from number 1 all the way through to the late 300s. As you'll see, I've got rid of all of the factory presets. These are all my own, and I haven't got that many. I've just got a few hundred of them. So I'm going to go to the very end and choose the next number after that to store my three imported patches to, because I don't want to override anything that I've already got there. So that's the first step for you, is to look at what you've got in terms of patches already on your synth and choose a sort of a contiguous sort of slot of empty slots, if you like, where you're going to save your imported patches to. So it's a good idea to know how many you're dealing with. So we've only got 3 in this case, and I'm going to put them at the very end of this list. So actions, import. Now we come to this import screen. By default, it's looking at the USB drive, and I don't have one attached. So we tap on that, and now it's looking at the SD card. And there you'll see new presets. That's the folder that I created on my SD card. So if I touch on it, we'll now see on the right hand side the individual patch files and the samples folder. Now you've got two options here. You can either touch on patch files individually and import them individually, or if you've put them into a folder like I've done, then you just make sure that that folder is selected and you can import the whole lot in one go. And that's what we're going to do here. So I've got my folder selected. I'm going to tap on import. Start slot. So there we are. It's saying start slot 386. Well, that's actually not what I want. I want 387 because 386 is actually occupied. So I want to start at 387. I mean, if you get this choice wrong, it's okay, because it's only if you sort of tick this box here that says overwrite existing slots will you ever, unintentionally lose any sort of existing patches you've got. So if you get that number wrong, it's only if you've got that selected could you actually lose anything. I would suggest, unless you really want to override some existing patches with your import, always just leave that box empty. So it's going to start importing those patches, however many there are, starting at that number and then incrementing that number and saving them. So when I touch on start, it does it, and it also at the same time, as you'll see here, it's accessing the samples and it's also importing the samples at the same time. So it's doing everything all in one go. The sample files can be big, patch files are tiny. So as you can see here, it's taking a little bit of time to import the different sample files that those presets are referencing. And there you go, it's done it. And here are my three newly imported presets, and the samples will be there as well. It's really quite straightforward and simple. You've just got to, the hardest part is choosing where you're going to actually import to. You've got one choice, the start number, and then that's it. There's a lot of things that can go wrong in this whole cycle. You might have a corrupt SD card, it might not be formatted correctly, you might forget to eject or dismount your SD card when you take it out from your PC. There are things that can go wrong that's got nothing to do with this process. So it's relying on the fact that the SD card is good, compatible with your synth, that you've copied the files correctly in the first place, and then of course you've got the import process on the synth itself. There's quite a few things that can go wrong. I quite often get people emailing me asking me for help with my sample sets, my sound sets, because they're having difficulty getting them onto their synths. And it's never actually a problem with my presets at all. It's a problem with something to do with their computer, or something to do with the way that the synth is working, or the SD card, or the SD card reader, or whatever it happens to be. So bear in mind that if you have a problem with this whole process, it might well be that you need some help with the synth. It might well be that you need some help with your computer. These are kind of things that are not my responsibility. That's all I want to say at this point. But there you go, that's it. That's the simple process for importing presets. I hope that's good enough for you. If you've got any questions, I will come back to you and hopefully I'll be able to answer them if you leave them in the comment section below. Thanks very much for watching.